While the offseason is not officially over, as we have to wait for Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Donovan Mitchell all to be moved, I unfortunately cannot wait to tackle just a video covering the offseason based on those moves. And also, trust me, when they happen, those moves will get videos. They're all going to be big trades, so videos. But beyond all of those big names, most teams' off seasons are over, and most teams are looking forward going into the 2022-23 season. So in today's video, I'm going to give grades based on what has happened so far. Grades can definitely be revised based on teams making trades, of course. Like, for example, the Miami Heat have a poor grade right now because all they did was lose PJ Tucker. But if they trade for Donovan Mitchell, they'll probably get a better grade. Also, I want to add this caveat here. I am grading just the offseason. I might give a team that didn't really need to have a big offseason a bad offseason grade because they did have a bad offseason, but it didn't really matter. I don't know how to describe it, but like, just because I graded a team's offseason poorly does not mean that they actually needed a big offseason, so it might not actually matter that much. It depends. Some teams needed a big offseason and didn't have one. I'll be sure to let you know. Anyways, I've been rambling too much. This video is going to be long as hell, so let's just get into it. Before I get into these grades, if you end up enjoying this video, then please be sure to subscribe, as it's a lot of effort from both me as well as my boy Rudy editing this. And drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in the YouTube algorithm. If I start saying subscribe for Rudy instead of me, will it make you do it because he's more likable than me? I don't know, we'll see. Starting off with the Boston Celtics, they are one of the few teams to get an A+ from me. Their major additions were Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari, and their only major loss was a first-round pick, as well as Aaron Nesmith. Also, I guess I should mention in these like major additions, major losses, the word major is very key there. If it's some like second-round pick, I'm not always necessarily going to mention that guy. Hell, there are plenty of first round picks that will go unmentioned, but not first round picks that are important to the team. But anyways, back to the Boston Celtics. Awesome offseason from them. Malcolm Brogdon for just a first round pick and Aaron Nesmith and Daniel Tice. That is a home run of a trade. Danilo Gallinari, I don't think he's actually going to be that important for them, but to get him for basically nothing is definitely a big deal. So like, they did nothing wrong and only improved from what is already a really good team. So they got an A+ from me. For the Brooklyn Nets, I just put a bunch of question marks. I don't fucking know. There's so many questions. What even is this roster next year? I don't know. We'll figure it out later. For the Knicks, I am giving them a D+. Their major additions were Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein, and they also brought back Mitchell Robinson. Their major losses were Kemba Walker, Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, and the 13th pick. They traded the 13th pick and moved hell and high water just to land Jalen Brunson for an ass load of money. And it's not as though that one move in particular is that bad, but that it's the home run move, that's the move you banked your entire offseason on, that you believe Jalen Brunson is really going to steer this ship in the right direction. That is a comically bad decision, and though Jalen Brunson is a good player, he is not good enough to stake all of your future on, and that seems like what the Knicks did. The Sixers get a B- from me. Their major additions were PJ Tucker, Anthony Melton, and Daniel House. All three players, I think, were the type of player they needed to add, and they lost Andre Drummond and a late first-round pick. But while I do believe those are all players that fit well, I also don't think they got enough of them, because if you're actually looking at their rotation, Maxey, Harden, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, PJ Tucker, and then DeAnthony Melton, that's like 7-man, like actually good players, and then Daniel House is like passable. They just aren't as deep as I would like them to be after this offseason, so I can't give them a great grade, but they also did a decent job targeting the right type of players. For the Toronto Raptors, they're kind of a hard team to grade, but I guess I'm just going to give them a C+ to B-. They added Otto Porter Jr. and didn't really lose anybody noteworthy, and Otto is a cool addition, but like, it's also like, I don't know, that's it. I don't know how to feel about it. But the Raptors were also not a team that needed a big offseason, so I don't really care that much. That's an example of that there for you. For the Chicago Bulls, I'm giving them a C. The major additions were Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond, and they suffered no major losses. However, what they've really needed has been some like defensive wings and a center upgrade, because I think Nikola Vucevic is washed, and for you to get a backup center and a backup guard on a team that's already stacked with guards, because you have Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu, Zach LaVine. Like, you didn't really need another guard, so you added an offensive guard at that. I did not like the offseason the Bulls had, and I'm probably going to elaborate on that further in a second channel video, so go check out my second channel. But yeah, a little bit disappointed in them. For the Cavaliers, and this is where I get conflicted, by default I have to give them an F, because they have no major additions, and they kind of have a major loss in Colin Sexton, but also they technically haven't lost him yet, because they do have the restricted rights, but they don't know what they're going to do with him, and it seems like they don't want to keep him, but they also don't necessarily have a trade lined up for him. But also, the Cavaliers didn't need a big offseason, so I'm really not going to be that harsh on them about it. But if I'm just looking at objectively, the only thing that they've maybe done is lost Colin Sexton, then that's not a good grade. But also, we still kind of have to wait and see on that one. I don't know, moving on. For the Detroit Pistons, they get an A. Their major additions are Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Kemba Walker, Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, and a Blazers first-round pick. And their only major loss for that huge talent overhaul is Jeremy Grant. I really loved the offseason the Pistons had. They added to their young talent, they added to their veteran talent, and I think overall they just became a much better team, made a lot of really smart decisions, and I believe they could even be a borderline play-in team next year. For the Pacers, I'm going to give them a B+, because they did their job pretty well. They got back Benedict Mathurin, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Aaron Nesmith, and that Celtics first-round pick, and they lost Malcolm Brogdon. They didn't really need Malcolm Brogdon going forward because of Tyrese Halliburton, and they managed to get a young piece out of him as well, actually, and as well as a first-round pick that'll eventually be a young piece. And they drafted presumably well. I actually don't know anything about this Benedict guy other than he has a cool name. But I think they did pretty good. It doesn't help that I don't know a shit ton about draft prospects. Maybe that was a bad pick, but to me, like, you added another young guy, you got a first round pick, Aaron Nesmith. I'm not ready to give up on him. I think that's a pretty good return for Malcolm Brogdon, and I'm really happy with the direction the Pacers rebuild is going, and I'm a huge Tyrese Halliburton guy, so I look forward to that team next year. For the Bucks, they literally didn't do anything besides for re-sign players. But all they really needed to do was re-sign players. So what grade do you give? I guess a B. Like, all they had to do was run it back. Like, I realized they didn't win last year, but like Chris Middleton, if he's there, you have to bank on that. And you just bring everybody back. And that's exactly what they did. So can't really fault them. B. For the Hawks, I'm giving them a B+. Their major additions were DeJounte Murray and Justin Holiday. Their major losses were Danilo Gallinari, Kevin Huerter, Gordy Dang, and a lot of first-round picks. I actually think the Hawks took a little bit more of a hit in the depth department than people are giving credit for, but I will mention that they overall did improve. But because of that hit, I'm not going to give them quite an A, as I think a lot of people would because of the DeJounte Murray trade. But overall, really good offseason from them, B+. All right, the Charlotte Hornets are a team that I was conflicted as to how to grade them because they lost Miles Bridges, but also it was their decision not to bring him back, and rightfully so. At least that's the way things are looking. There is still a potential that he's back. But for those who don't know about the off-court drama, I'm not going to be the one to inform you about it. But I cannot fault the Hornets for not bringing him back, so I'm not going to give them a bad grade. But it is definitely going to be a noteworthy hit to how good the team is next year that they don't have the guy on the roster. So it's definitely a difficult situation. They also lost Montrezl Harrell, but frankly, from the reports, it seems as though he was not good for that locker room, so it's probably not really a loss. And they got back Mark Williams, who, from what I understand prospect-wise, could potentially be a good center for them, but I don't really know how to grade the Hornets because of a lot of political type of things. A lot of semantics to this that frankly, I just don't want to give them a grade. Yeah, it's difficult. For the Miami Heat, I am going to give them I'm gonna change my grade here. I think I'm going to give them a C-. They got no major additions and they lost PJ Tucker, but they did re-sign a couple of people. So I don't know, just not a great offseason. The Magic get an A. Their only addition was Paolo Banchero, and they didn't suffer any major losses, but the team finally added a star perimeter player. I cannot, if that's the only move you did, good job. Like, I'm really excited to see the Magic with a star shot creator actually on the roster. It's something they've needed for a long time. For the Washington Wizards, I guess I'll give them... Actually, I'm going to change this to a C+. Their major additions are Monte Morris, Will Barton, and DeLon Wright, and their major loss was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I'm going to give them a lower grade, though, because Bradley Beal on that money is ridiculous, especially after the season that he had last year, which was a real down year, and I feel like there's not enough people concerned that that's a sign for a decline. And if you just paid Bradley Beal all that money and he's about to be worse, oh boy. Moving on to the Western Conference, I'm giving the Nuggets an A-. Their major additions were KCP and Bruce Brown. Their major losses were Monte Morris and Will Barton. In terms of actual talent, I think that's a fairly even exchange, but in terms of what the Nuggets need when everybody is healthy, that's way better. Like, Monte Morris and Will Barton are guys that are going to look for their own shots. Meanwhile, you've got enough shots going around with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic, so instead, swap those guys out for some defensive guys and Bruce Brown and KCP. Way better for the system. No players taking shots when they shouldn't be. It's really just a way better way to go about it. So I really love the offseason the Nuggets just had. And go check out yesterday's video from what's the guy's name? Alex Hoops. That's the fella. The collab series we have over here. Go check that out. We just did a video on the Nuggets. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, I am going to give them an A. Their major additions, of course, are Rudy Gobert, followed by Kyle Anderson. Major losses, Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverley, Malik Beasley, and multiple first-round picks. I've already given my thoughts about the Wolves in a video I did with Alex, so you can go check that out. I'm a huge fan of this trade, and I understand the risks that exist, and because of those risks, I can't give them an A+, but I give them an A because I really do think this move is going to work out for them. For the Okc Thunder, I am going to give them an A. Their only major additions, of course, are Chet Holmgren and two rookies, one of which I cannot pronounce the name of. Is it Ousmane Dieng? And Jalen Williams, and they have no real major losses, so actually, I'm going to change their grade to an A+. I'm giving 3 teams an A+ in this video. Big talent upgrade, big youth upgrade, big prospect upgrade, and they didn't really lose anything, so I see no reason why that's not a perfect score. For the Blazers, I'm going to give them a B-. I'm not as high on this offseason that they had as a lot of people are, even though I've generally liked the direction they have gone. However, once again, I feel like they missed the mark where Jeremy Grant, Gary Payton II, and Shadion Sharp, in exchange for they lost the 2025 first. I don't think that that's enough from them. Like, again, I don't feel like the Blazers are doing enough. I don't think they understand what it takes to win a championship from a front office perspective, because like, Jeremy Grant is the best talent upgrade you made. Jeremy Grant's cool, but come the fuck on. We're talking about trying to be a championship level team here. This is not enough. But they didn't have a bad offseason, so I can't give them a bad grade, so B- is where I go. For the Utah Jazz, I'm going to give them an A, and I would make a video on this topic if I didn't think it would bomb. But I honestly believe that rebuilding now is like a beautiful decision by the Utah Jazz, and the way that they've gone about their last couple of years, I think has been done well. And they gave the core of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert exactly as much time as it deserved. And now that it's very clear that that's just not going to go all the way, they're shipping those players out. I think they did. I think they played the timeline of this duo perfectly. They didn't wait too long. They didn't give up on it prematurely. It was perfect. They did get back a ton of first-round picks for Gobert, as well as Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and Patrick Beverley, who I'm sure they're all going to get first-round picks for. And of course, their major loss was Rudy Gobert. They also lost Royce O'Neal and Hassan Whiteside. The Warriors get a D. Their major addition is Donte DiVincenzo, who frankly is not that good post-injury, and their major losses were Gary Payton II and Otto Porter Jr. Two really key players to their playoff run last year, and to lose those guys and to get back Donte, definitely a talent downgrade, and you're going to have to hope for someone like Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody to step up in the void that those players left. And I assume that's what the Warriors are doing, and maybe it'll work out, but also maybe it won't, and it was a big decision to let those guys go. I did not like the Warriors offseason. The Clippers are going to get a B. John Wall is literally the only major addition to the roster with no major losses. Really, John Wall is a low-risk, high-reward type of decision, and I look forward to seeing what he does with the Clippers this year. Again, to do a plug to an Alex Hoops video, we talked about what he might look like with the Clippers in a video like 3 weeks ago. But yeah, John Wall is a pretty fine addition, and they had a great regular season offseason. They had a great deadline, so I wasn't expecting them to do anything big this offseason, but John Wall is a cool addition. The Lakers get a C. Their major additions were Lonnie Walker, Thomas Bryant, and Juan Toscano-Anderson. Their major losses were Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, and Trevor Ariza, all guys probably about to retire. Even though I think especially Thomas Bryant is a great pickup, just simply not big enough bolstered decisions. Like, we need large-scale stuff here, and those are 3 okay NBA players, and you needed more than that to impress me, so I'm giving them a C. For the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to be extraordinarily petty, and I'm going to give them an F. Fuck you guys for that entire DeAndre Ayton situation. It was disrespectful to him and a waste of all of our times. I can't tell you how much that situation pissed me off. The dance that he had to play this whole offseason, the will they, won't they, fuck that. Like, seriously, the whole thing was stupid, and it speaks a lot to the cancerous ownership of Robert Sarver. It's disgusting. Did they actually fail that badly? I don't know, but I don't care. I'm giving them an F out of spite. For the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to give them an A because I saw Keegan Murray in the Summer League, and that guy is the real deal. Not to mention, I am a huge believer in both Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, and their only losses were Donte DiVincenzo and Justin Holiday, both players worse than all 3 of these guys. I do worry that there's going to be a little bit of a logjam with their guard rotation, but overall they definitely had a really big talent upgrade, and with that duo that they have with Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, and the now pretty damn good supporting pieces around it, I wouldn't be shocked if they were actually a play-in team next year. The Dallas Mavericks get our 3rd A+ of the day, their major additions being Christian Wood and JaVale McGee, and their only major loss, not even really being that major, but I had to shout him out, and that is Boban. Now, maybe it is a little egotistical of me to think that the exact move that I proposed that they made, that they then decided to make, is a brilliant decision, because I don't know, it's kind of an ego stroke in that regard, but I don't care. Christian Wood is a brilliant decision. To get that kind of star power out of practically nothing, it's going to be considered one of the best moves of this offseason, I'm certain of it. For the Houston Rockets, I'm going to give them a B. Their major addition was Jabari Smith Jr., Ty Washington Jr., and their major loss was Dennis Schroeder. Side note, Dennis Schroeder does not deserve to not be in the NBA right now. I understand there was the whole, like, I'm gonna get so much money from the Lakers thing, and then it's like, dude, who do you think you are? I get that, but like, the guy is a solid NBA point guard, and the fact that he's struggling to find a rotation or a team to sign him is like kind of crazy. Anyways, for the Rockets, I'm just not really huge on Jabari Smith personally. I don't know anything about Ty, but you did add 2 young players. I mean, part of me just wants to give them a better grade, would have given them a better grade just because it looked like Paulo was going to fall into your hands, and that was going to be a slam dunk of an offseason, and then the Magic wised up and took the best player in the class with the first pick. So that said, just kind of not even their own fault, the Rockets get a little bit worse of a grade just because they didn't get the player that I wanted them to get, I guess. For the Grizzlies, they get a C. They basically swapped D'Anthony Melton for Jake LaRavia. I don't know anything about him as a prospect. D'Anthony Melton was cool, but not great in the playoffs, so I don't fault you for losing him, but it really wasn't a big move one way or the other, and ultimately inconsequential, so I'm just going to give them a neutral C. For the Pelicans, they drafted Dyson Daniels and didn't lose anybody important, so I'm going to give them a B-. And for the Spurs, they added Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and multiple first-round picks. Fucking struggling with rookie pronunciations, man. And their major losses was DeJounte Murray, of course. I'm actually happy the Spurs traded DeJounte Murray, which is why I think I said I'm going to give them a B-. I'm going to upgrade that to a B+. I felt like DeJounte was going to make them like a 10 seed every year or like an 11 seed. And I frankly didn't think he was good enough to justify that. So really would just rather than be bad, get somebody like generational prospect that's coming up in this new draft, the like 7'5" guy whose name escapes me right now. I'd rather them get somebody like that than continue to get like the 7th or 8th pick in the draft. And they also added a bunch of young players in this year's draft, so good on them. Those are at least my rough grades for all of these teams' off seasons. Of course, these are still some things that are subject to change because a few moves are still yet to be had. But for at least, you know, I guess there's 4 players that could potentially change things, with Colin Sexton being thrown in there. For 26 of these teams, well, there's also the teams that might trade them. So for like 20 of these teams, the grade is solid. The other ones will have to wait and see. I'm sure that math makes sense somewhere. Anyways, this is a long-ass video. Shout out to Rudy for editing it, but that is the end of it. Goodbye.